Hello, everybody. I'm Myron Medcalf, founder of the Marianne Key Club, joined as always by Ramona Kitto Stately, who will moderate our May 12th panel on an Indigenous people's history of the United States for young people. The book that was adapted by Gene Mendoza and Debbie Reese. We just had an author event with Debbie Reese that went very well. And we are looking forward to having a conversation with our distinguished panel on May 12th. It will be an incredible event. Please sign up through Hennepin County Library's website so that you can join us and participate. Ramona, I have a lot of questions after reading this book, and then certainly after talking to Debbie Reese, who is awesome and amazing. And I felt like I could have talked to her for hours and hours. I just learned so much from that conversation. But one of the things we did talk about was this idea of reparations. I know as an African-American, how I think about reparations and what that could look like. When I think about the indigenous population, the indigenous communities, and the land that was stolen and taken, Ramona, what would reparations, like, how would that look, in your opinion?
So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. So I think that's a scary question for a lot of white people across Minnesota. And I like to really narrow down my statements based in place. So I'm always going to talk about our state and how it looks. So reparations doesn't mean that people are going to have to move out of their house and give their land back, but reparations can look like acknowledgement, acknowledging that there was harm caused. And our Native people displaced from their land, placed on reservations, exiled out of the state where their language and culture only makes sense. It only makes sense here. Our star knowledge, our sense of place, our understanding of who we are, and the words that we say. Makato is a word, Mankato, which really means blue earth, but that's describing that place, right? So reparations, number one, acknowledging Indigenous people past 1900. We are still here, but also there are places that have been left. Fort Snelling is the place of the Dakotas' genesis. This is our creation story. It's vacant. The state is looking to pay millions and millions of dollars to rebuild it and reinforce a false narrative, when giving that place back to the Dakota for language revitalization, for an institute of learning, to help people really understand the significance of place, would be a wonderful place to start. And then allowing those sacred places to be managed and given back to the Ojibwe and the Dakota people across the state. And that's just the beginning, but no one has to move out. No one has to leave their place, but be very considerate about how we begin those reparations.
I love that. I mean, I think, yeah, people get sort of defensive in those conversations right away. And then you also hear the, well, it wasn't me, we weren't responsible. And I always respond with, okay, that may be true, but if you're the beneficiary of these things, you have to consider that. And that brings us to my next question about our panel. May 12th, you're going to lead this incredible group talking about the book. And what do you want people to get from that conversation that they're going to hear on May 12th?
I think what I'd really like people to be able to do is think more critically about not only what we're learning in history, but what we're not hearing. What is that other story that is being left out? And that shows itself in many ways. And the brilliance of the panel that are going to be coming forward will be able to spotlight and amplify how being invisible, how it shows itself. I would think about clean water and why clean water is important, and why, in the span of 160 years of decision making in our state, we have managed to poison every river and lake in our state. How does that translate to us today as communities? And I'm not talking about just the Dakota and the Ojibwe, but all of the communities and the majority white community. How is clean water, the denial of clean water to all of us, impacting us? I want people to understand that there are really important decisions made by leadership today who don't understand the history. One of the really important things is Native nations cannot be considered a race. Now, I don't think that people understand that. So we cannot be put into a racial category because we are governments. Yet we always are, right? We're put in a multicultural education group, or we're considered this red nation. But politically, as our Congress says, we cannot be put into those race categories. And therefore, we cannot be pushed into this critical race theory, which is a whole idea or pushback of white people to say, we don't want to talk about that or teach kids about that. But what it's doing right now is it's hurting our Indigenous education for all legislation, because they're saying, oh, that's more of critical race theory. If we understood, and if we had been educated better about the Native nations and treaties and our US Constitution, which makes them the supreme law of the land, we would be able to make better decisions and be able to not be swayed by this whole media storm about what's the truth and what's not the truth.
And the truth is a relative term, clearly, in American history, because there's a truth that young people across this country are learning that is not, in fact, the truth. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm looking forward to the panel, and I'm looking forward to the insight that I hope our viewers gain from this. Again, sign up on the Hennepin County Library website. We look forward to you joining us for that May 12th panel. Thank you.